Documentary script: The 17 Minutes That Proved Grant Was Unstoppable, Bruce Catton. When Bruce Catton uncovered a military report lost for decades in the Washington archives, he never imagined those yellowed pages would reveal the most explosive secret about Ulysses S. Grant. For 30 years, Catton had studied every battle, every decision, every moment of Grant's career. But it was only when he held that document, dated May 6, 1864, a mere 2-page report, that his life as a historian changed forever. What Catton discovered in those pages wasn't just a battle. It was definitive proof that Grant possessed something no general in American history had ever demonstrated before. And it all happened in exactly 17 minutes that defined not only the Civil War, but the entire essence of American leadership. Bruce Catton was never just a historian. He was an obsessive detective. For decades, he had pursued a question that kept him awake at night: what truly made Grant different from all the other Union generals? Catton realized that, until that point, all of Grant's biographers had focused on the great victories: Vicksburg, the final campaign against Lee. But then he understood something revolutionary. Great revelations about leadership don't happen in moments of triumph. They happen in moments of absolute chaos. It was May 1956 when Catton discovered that report. He had spent the entire day at the National Archives, as he religiously did for years. His hands were dirty with dust, his eyes tired, but something about that document magnetically drew his attention. Report on the Battle of the Wilderness, May 6, 1864, 5:43 p.m. to 6 p.m. Catton read that line and felt his heart race. 17 minutes. In his entire career, he had never found such a specific account of such a short period of time. That night, Catton couldn't sleep. He knew he had found something extraordinary. During his research, he realized that those 17 minutes in the wilderness weren't just another skirmish. They were the exact moment Grant transformed from a good general into something entirely different. Catton never forgot the day he finally understood what happened in those 17 minutes. That's when he had the epiphany: Grant wasn't just courageous. He possessed a quality that Catton took decades to properly name. To understand what Catton discovered, we need to go back to that May 6, 1864. The Battle of the Wilderness had turned into a nightmare. The Union Army was being torn apart by Lee's forces in a dense forest where smoke and fire made it impossible to distinguish friend from foe. At 5:43 p.m., according to the report Catton held in his trembling hands, something happened that no Union general had done before. The center of Grant's lines had completely collapsed. His men were in desperate retreat. It was the perfect moment to withdraw, exactly as McClellan had done, as Hooker had done, as all the others had done when facing Lee. But Catton discovered that, in that moment of absolute chaos, Grant did something that changed not only that battle, but the entire war. He didn't retreat. He didn't hesitate. Instead, at 5:45 p.m., he gave an order his own officers thought would be military suicide: advance along the entire line. Immediately, Catton realized that order wasn't just tactical, it was psychological. Grant was betting everything on something no general had tried before, turning an imminent defeat into a declaration of intent. During his research, Catton understood that those 17 minutes revealed Grant's true genius. It wasn't his courage. It was his revolutionary understanding that, in war, perception is more powerful than reality. If you act like you can't be stopped, you become unstoppable. At 5:52 p.m., just 9 minutes after Grant's order, something extraordinary happened. Lee's forces, which were about to completely destroy the Union Army, suddenly hesitated. Catton discovered in Confederate reports that they couldn't understand what was happening. How could a retreating general be attacking? That's when Catton had his greatest revelation. He found a letter from Lee himself, written 3 days after the battle, where the Confederate general admitted, "This Grant is different from the others. He doesn't think like the others think." Catton never imagined that discovery would lead him to completely rewrite his understanding of leadership. Those 17 minutes in the wilderness weren't about military tactics. They were about the psychology of leadership. Grant had discovered something that Catton took 30 years to fully understand. It was 3 a.m. when Bruce Catton finally grasped the true meaning of those 17 minutes. He was at his desk, surrounded by hundreds of documents, when the epiphany struck him like lightning. Grant hadn't just attacked in the wilderness. He had completely reinvented the concept of leadership under pressure. Catton realized that, in those 17 minutes, Grant demonstrated that true leaders are not those who never fail. They are those who transform the moment of failure into the moment of definition. Catton discovered something even more extraordinary in the diaries of Union soldiers. After those 17 minutes, the attitude of the entire army changed. For the first time in the war, they had a general who didn't retreat. No matter the cost, no matter the circumstances, Grant always advanced. "We finally have a general who fights," an Illinois soldier wrote. "Grant doesn't know the word retreat," another noted. Catton understood that those 17 minutes in the wilderness weren't just a battle. They were the moment Grant became a legend in the minds of his own men. It was at that moment in Catton's career that he understood the deepest truth about leadership. Great leaders are not born ready. They are forged in the fire of the most impossible moment. And Grant had been forged in exactly 17 minutes of absolute chaos. Catton never forgot that moment of revelation. He realized he had spent decades studying battles, strategies, numbers, but he had missed the most important element: the exact moment a man transforms into something greater than himself. During his research, Catton discovered that those 17 minutes in the wilderness explained everything that came after: Spotsylvania, Cold Harbor, Petersburg, Appomattox. Grant had become psychologically unstoppable because he had proven to himself that he knew no limits. When Bruce Catton finally presented his discovery about the 17 minutes of the wilderness, the historical community was shocked. Historians who had studied Grant for decades realized they had missed the most defining moment of his entire career. "I spent 30 years looking for Grant's secret in the great battles," Catton admitted years later. But the real Grant was hidden in 17 minutes of chaos that everyone considered just another skirmish. That discovery transformed not only Catton's career, but all modern understanding of military leadership. He had proven that moments of crisis don't destroy great leaders, they reveal them. Today, in military academies around the world, Grant's 17 minutes in the wilderness are studied as the perfect example of transformational leadership. Catton had discovered that Grant wasn't just a general. He was an intuitive psychologist who understood how to turn defeat into victory through sheer willpower. Catton visited the wilderness dozens of times after his discovery. He used to stand at the exact spot where Grant gave that impossible order, trying to feel what the general had felt in those crucial 17 minutes. Grant was not a traditional military genius, Catton wrote in his memoirs. He was something much rarer, a man who had discovered how to become unstoppable through the absolute refusal to accept limits. In the last years of his life, Bruce Catton often said that those 17 minutes in the wilderness taught him more about human nature than decades of academic study. Grant had discovered something that transcended war: how to transform the moment of collapse into the moment of transformation. Catton's discovery about Grant's 17 minutes revolutionized not only military history, but our entire understanding of leadership in crisis. Executives, politicians, athletes, all study that moment when Grant chose to attack when everyone expected him to retreat. Catton spent the rest of his career exploring the implications of that discovery. He had found definitive proof that Grant wasn't just courageous. He had developed a completely new mindset about what's possible when you refuse to accept defeat. That 2-page report Catton discovered in 1956 is still preserved in the National Archives. But its true importance isn't in the paper. It's in the lesson Bruce Catton extracted from it: that true leaders are not defined by their successes, but by how they respond in the moment when success seems impossible. Grant proved he was unstoppable in 17 minutes. Catton proved he was a genius by discovering those 17 minutes. And us? We have the opportunity to apply this transformative lesson to our own lives. Because we all have our 17 minutes coming. The question is, when they arrive, will you retreat like everyone else, or will you attack like Grant? If Bruce Catton's obsessive journey through American history touched you as much as it touched millions around the world, subscribe to the channel to discover more explosive revelations that forever changed our understanding of leadership, courage, and human nature. And tell us in the comments, what was your 17-minute moment that defined who you became?